it is one of the proudest moments of my life to be able to say that I accept your nomination for the office of Westchester County District Attorney. Westchester County needs a district attorney who is pro-law enforcement and who will administer justice equally across the board. We need a district attorney who understands that the first and most important role of government is to keep us safe. Yes, there are other problems. People struggle with taxes and spending and jobs and health care. But if you're living in Mount Vernon where there's a homicide every month for the last 15 months, if you're worried about the sexual predator who's moved back on your block because of an easy plea bargain, if you're afraid to use your credit card because your identity may be stolen, if you're a victim of domestic violence in fear of your boyfriend or husband coming home because he may strike again, then you don't have the luxury of worrying about those other things. And it's the district attorney's job to keep us safe. And unfortunately, not everything that needs to be done by the DA's office is being done to keep us safe. And in fact, some of their policies actually undermine our safety. But soon, very soon, in just a few months now, that will change. Come January 1st, 2010, we will institute a new management system in the DA's office. We will stop the haphazard assignment and reassignment of prosecutors from case to case and bureau to bureau. We will stop being a thorn in the side of law enforcement and instead will be a partner who supports them. We will use new technology not only to catch criminals, but to give the crime victims needed assistance to protect themselves. And we will fight, yes, fight to keep dangerous criminals off our streets. We will end the easy plea bargains that are plaguing this county and returning violent criminals to our streets. This is why I went to law school, to become a prosecutor. And I was fortunate enough to be able to specialize in the prosecution of domestic violence, sex crimes, child abuse, and homicides. In Queens, I got to work with the great officers of the NYPD. And in Westchester, I was fortunate enough to work with every department in this county. I've conducted trials, taken cases to juries, and gotten convictions on murder, rape, burglary, domestic violence, assault. And I know that the real work of prosecutors doesn't just happen in the courtroom. It happens at 3 a.m. at a murder scene, when you're consoling the victim's family, when you're working with the police to write search warrants, when you're Mirandizing defendants to try to get a confession. And I've done all that, and I've also taken those calls at 4 a.m. from domestic violence victims who are scheduled to testify just 5 or 6 hours later and who are terrified about facing their abuser in court. This is the real world, real prosecution experience that is missing in the leadership of the DA's office right now. And I'm proud to be the only candidate in this race who's actually tried and convicted dangerous criminals in Westchester. And when I return to the DA's office as district attorney, we will bring a new attitude where we fight crime, where we're aggressive, and we know how real cases are built and won. Now, of course, we all know that the current district attorney was nominated and supported by many people in this room, including me, 4 years ago. At that time, she was a Republican. She was nominated, she won, and then she switched parties. And that was wrong, and I want to explain why. It has nothing to do with Republican or Democrat. I have a lot of Democratic friends in this room. Many of you in the last few days have actually said to me that you're shocked to find yourself coming to a Republican convention. But you know what? It's that kind of broad support that this campaign has across party lines that's going to lead us to win in November. It's also not about Democrats being soft on crime, because I worked for Richard Brown, Democratic District Attorney of Queens County, as tough on crime as you will ever find. What it is about integrity. It's about meaning what you say. It's about not misleading people and taking advantage of people. Because in 2005, when Janet DeFiore needed to be a Republican in order to get elected district attorney, she told us all she was a Republican. She took our money, she took our time, she let us work really, really hard, and then she won. And then in 2007, when the political winds had changed, and it became more helpful to be a Democrat, she decided to become a Democrat. And then in 2009, she's even trying to convince some people now that she's a conservative. And you know, if the Whig Party was still in existence, and they had enough registered voters in Westchester, if the Whig Party was still in existence and they had enough voters in Westchester, at some point she'd probably say she was one of them too. But that's not why I'm running for district attorney. It's not because she switched parties. And I know you're not supporting me because she switched parties. What's more important is the quality of criminal justice in this county. It's the fact that the crime rate for murder, rape, and burglary are all up in this county while they're down statewide. It's the fact that there are rising crime of gangs and violence, homicides every month in Mount Vernon, and there's no answer from the DA's office. What's Janet DeFiore's response? Well, you may have seen it last week. She wrote a column for the Journal News saying how we need a stronger defense bar in this county. Now, a free society needs a strong defense bar. She's our leader in the fight against crime, and it is a fight against crime. And she could be talking about getting her ADAs more involved in the community. She could be talking about having a more stable presence around the county. She could be talking about more proactive and aggressive investigations. She could be talking about not giving out easy plea bargains so criminals don't return to our streets. But instead, she takes her time to write about how we need stronger defense attorneys. And I was recently in Mount Vernon at the Grace Baptist Church, and I spoke with community leaders, religious leaders, political leaders, who are scared and frustrated about the rising crime problem there. And Janet DeFiore spoke for about 1 minute and said several times, "I stand ready to help you. My office stands ready to help you." And that kind of passivity is why we have the problems we have today. So I'd like to tell you a few of the things that I'll do differently. First of all, when you're a victim of crime in this county, you need to know that the prosecutor assigned to you on day one will be with you every step of the way till the completion of your case. It sounds obvious, it sounds reasonable, but we don't have that now. You'll have one assistant DA assigned to you at arraignment, you'll have another at grand jury, you may have another at trial, and maybe a couple of others sprinkled here or there. If you're a victim of crime, it's confusing, it's frustrating, it's not victim friendly. And for the police officers, they don't know who to turn to when a new assistant DA is handling their case every few weeks. I had a friend who was recently a victim of a sex crime in Westchester, and she called me because I'm a former sex crimes prosecutor, and she told me how she had to keep recounting this terrible, disturbing event in her life over and over again to a new prosecutor. By the time the case was resolved by plea, she had gone through 5 different assistant district attorneys. This is unacceptable. This is Westchester County. This is Westchester County's district attorney's office. This must end, and on January 1st, 2010, this practice will end. Starting on January 1st, 2010, victims will find a victim-friendly district attorney's office that not only gives them enhanced services, but brings the services that already exist closer to them. All around this country and in New York City, victims are taking advantage of what's called a family justice center, where services all around the county to help domestic violence victims are brought in one location where victims can meet with the prosecutor, meet with the police. Maybe a domestic violence victim will need an employment counselor, job training, child care, child custody, maybe immigration issues, language problems, all while they have a safe playroom for their kids to be playing in a supervised manner. It's easy, and it actually saves money because you don't have to have overhead for all these counselors all around the county. They do this in Queens, they do it in Brooklyn, they do it all around, but not in Westchester. Because Westchester, which used to be at the forefront of new initiatives, and bringing better services to victims has fallen behind. And we need to change that, and I will bring a family justice center to Westchester. The victims deserve it, and Westchester will be better off.